All right. Well, let's see how that is, guys. And, Gio made a good point the last time we were just on. Maybe it's those homeschoolers. I know my daughter is in class right now. So let's see here. I'll look on my end. Yeah, it's still looking pixelated to me, which is not good. Yeah, I'm looking at my feed on the other side too here. It does look like it is pixelated. That's not good. All right. Well, same, not good. Yeah, I can see that. And it seems like we're definitely experiencing some pull from the feed. So, yeah. So let me see here. One last thing. I mean, I am directly hardwired in too. Now, let me ask you this, guys. Is the we know your face. Is the audio okay? Let me just try to see if the audio is okay. If the audio is okay, I'm going to roll. You only need the audio for the podcast, right? That's true. Audio is clear. All right. I don't get it. It's got to be the bandwidth pull. Let me know too if it starts to clear up at all as I'm going here. But yeah, okay. Kind of stinks though. Audio's great. That's good. Okay. It's like the old days with dial-up modems. Audio is clear. Yeah, kind of seems that way, huh? Okay. I'm just curious on how that would work if well, I guess it's not going to matter. Let's not worry about it, right? All right. Let's do this. All right. So I definitely want to answer this question because it's a good topic, I think, and a lot of people they could be thinking that they want to start a podcast, but they're just not 100% sure. Because how does a podcast fit into, creating a brand, right? So what I want to do is, and again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Let me see here. I'm going to pull up the question, or actually, I'm going to pull up the question that came in through the Facebook group, which, by the way, guys, if you guys are not in the Rock Your Brand private Facebook group, make sure that you are, because there's a lot of great conversations going on in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is like I always do, I'm going to kick this off as our Friday jam session. I apologize for the video quality. I have no idea. I usually have enough upload speed versus the download. I always have enough up, even if people are on, but who knows? Maybe today we're just having a lot less bandwidth because of school and kids that are online. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick this off. I'm going to introduce it as a Friday jam session. And then from there, I'm going to dig into this question. If you guys have any questions on this topic or any other topics, let me know and we'll make sure that we dig in here. All right. So here we go. As you guys know, I'm going to give a little pause. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the live portion of this, but we're going to turn it into a Friday jam session. All right. So here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to another Friday jam session. As you guys know, this is one of the highlights of my week because I get to hang out with some really cool people and we get to answer some really cool questions. And today's topic is definitely one that I have not ever talked about. At least I don't recall talking about it. And that is, and this question came in from the Rock Your Brand private Facebook group, and it came in from Mark, and he asked, and he asked everyone, really, was question for all you brand creators. Should I start a podcast? And then he went on to talk a little bit about his current brand. I have a very small PL, private label, brand with an email list of 2,400 and currently get over 2,000 monthly page views on my website. What will I get out of starting a podcast? My main concern is that I already have a regular full-time job, meaning I have limited time to work on my brand. Is starting a podcast worth the time and effort? There are already podcasts out there that educate people in my niche, so at least I know there is some demand for podcast content. Glad to be part of this awesome group of take actioners. So love it. Great question. And then immediately we had a whole bunch of comments that came in from this thread. And it was a really good question. Actually, Kyle had said, do you want a podcast? Like, I think that's a great question, because if you don't want to podcast, it is going to require time. It is going to require you to show up consistently. And that goes for anything. If you're going to start YouTubing, do you want to shoot videos? If you're going to blog, do you want to post on, a website as a blog post? Like, you have to ask yourself these questions. But the thing that I want to do, and that's also what was happening here in this thread, was you really have to figure out why you're doing it. And then what does it look like as far as getting traffic? So that's what I want to talk about here. Now, it's funny because then Mark came in and said, Kyle, I'm toying with the idea of it being another way of gaining traffic, right? And then Kyle had said, if the thought of doing a podcast gets you excited, then do it. And I agree, right? And then Diane says, good advice. But then Mark came back and said, I'm pretty much a one-man operation, so I'm worried that a podcast takes a lot of time and effort, and with a full-time job, already my time is limited, right? And so here's what I want to say to this, all right? And this is what everyone should understand about podcasting. Podcasting is a great platform to build relationships with your audience, okay? With your, people in your market. Okay. It's a great way to really build a deeper connection, a different type of relationship. All right. But it's not going to be something that you're going to create an episode and then people are going to go search and find you. Now, do people go in iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or any of those, and do they search for topics? Maybe, but not as much as people that are referred to a podcast, right? Or someone that recommends the podcast, or maybe you just stumble on it because you were doing some research and then you stumbled on a blog post that you also found out that they have a podcast, right? But very rarely are you going to go to iTunes and search, how to catch more bass in a pond, right? It's not that way. All right. So what I would say is, if you are thinking of doing a podcast, number one, you need to commit to it. And I would say one episode per week, just like one blog post per week, one YouTube video per week, whatever it is, one episode, one post per week. Okay. But if you are thinking to yourself, I'm doing this as a way to get organic traffic, you have to ask yourself, how are people finding you? And if it's through the way that I had just explained, like going to iTunes and stuff, I wouldn't go that route. I think your time would be better well spent on creating a piece of written content that could be indexed by Google that lives on. Remember, if you're looking for people to come to your website by an organic search, it's not going to be through a podcast. Okay. Now, if you already are up and running and you are writing blog posts or having them written, and maybe you are doing a YouTube video, or maybe you're not, maybe you're just doing written content and you're like, you know what? I've got an email list. I want to start really engaging with this email list, and I want to start spreading the word about the podcast. And then what that will do is it will build a deeper connection, a deeper relationship, the know, like, and trust element for your audience, right? And it's pretty easy, actually, to do a podcast. And I say easy. It's not hard, right? I mean, they make it super easy nowadays. Like, you can literally just grab a decent mic for $100, $200. You don't need an elaborate setup. You can buy a mic for $100 or less, a little stand, right? And you can record right into your computer on GarageBand, or there's a few other ones that are free out there. But it's not that hard, and the quality can be pretty clean. Okay. That's not the hard part. The hard part is, are you going to be able to commit to doing this also without the expectations that you're going to get floods of traffic from it? Now, the other part of a podcast is, in order to get your podcast out there, you either need an email list to then let them know that you have a new podcast. Because what this will do then is it will help you rank inside of iTunes or Stitcher or wherever. And then that will give you more eyeballs. Okay. Because if someone's searching or listening, let's not even say searching. If they're listening to a podcast and yours comes up like related podcast, that could be a way to get traffic, right? But I wouldn't say it'd be more of a search. It'd be more of like, if you like this podcast, you'll like this. It's kind of like a related one. So that's just some things to think about. All right. But I do like it if you're looking to take this long term and build a relationship. But if you have the email list, it's a great way for you to show up and then be with that audience, and they really get to know you. Like you guys that are listening to this right now, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, then you know what I mean, right? You know a lot about me. You can hear the inflection in my voice. You know the type of person I am. You know if you like me or you don't, right? You know a little bit about my personal life. You know I just had a new granddaughter. You know I've been married for 26 years. I've got 3 kids. You know all that stuff. That takes the level of trust up a notch, right? But if I'm starting from scratch, I'm not just starting a podcast, because that doesn't necessarily get me found in search. Okay. So what I ended up doing with this podcast when I first started it is there was no expectations that I was going to do anything as far as what I've built it into now. I had no idea. I just knew that I already had my other stuff running. I had other online businesses that were providing, freedom for myself and my family. They were paying the bills and we were doing good, right? The podcast was more of a hobby for me at that time. I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this thing over here. I'm going to record it. I like jumping on the mic. This is a jam session. I like to be in front of people and helping people, right? It's a stage. It's a platform. So I'm just going to do it and have fun with it. And wherever it goes, it goes. Like it wasn't like it was going to be a huge time thing for me, right? It was something that I was looking forward to because it was fun. Okay. And then from there, I allowed the podcast to grow with the email list that I was building and then let people know about a new episode. But the other thing that a podcast will do for you is it will open doors in your market. So if you wanted to do 1 episode a week and interview someone that's in your market, well, now what this does is, yes, it gives you a piece of content that can be on a podcast. You can also turn that into a video, put it up on YouTube, and you can transcribe it or have show notes made where then you put it up on your blog post, and you're having people that are in the industry come over to basically share their knowledge and their expertise, right? So you have to ask yourself that question. And that's the same question that Kyle asked. Do you want to, do a podcast? And if so, why? Well, Mark had said, I want to get organic traffic. Well, if that's probably not the best use of your time, is what I would say, right? But if you have a little bit of time, and it doesn't take long. I mean, if you have an extra hour per week, you could start a podcast. Once you get the setup done, it's kind of like if you do Pinterest, right? If you get everything set up, after that, the running of it is pretty simple. It's just the setup. Once you're building a website, right? Getting it set up takes a little bit more time. Once it's set up, now we just add content to it, right? So always the beginning stages are a little bit not hard, but they take more time. Once you get it set up, then it's like, okay, like right now, I'm recording this episode. It's going to basically, it's going to end, and then it's going to go up into a Dropbox folder. And then from there, I'm going to have it edited, and I'm going to have the show notes created, and it's going to be basically scheduled, right? So after I'm done here, I'm pretty much just downloading this file, uploading it to Dropbox, and I'm done because I've had that outsourced, right? So it's not a lot of work for me. I'm sitting down here doing this, and then I'm going to publish it, and that's it. And I'm done, right? But now there's also going to be a blog post that's created for this that's going to reside on the website so people could find it that way, or I can direct people there. There's also going to be people listening to this that are like, oh, Scott, I was referred to you by so-and-so because I heard you on another podcast, which is another point that if you have a podcast, it's it's a lot easier to then get exposure on other people's podcasts, because now you can say, hey, I'll be on yours if you be on mine, right? You can start to trade that, and you build connections in your marketplace. So if you wanted to promote your podcast, the best way to do that, which I actually got to do a better job here, I kind of slacked a little bit over the past year, is getting on more podcasts, right? Is just getting yourself out there on more podcasts. Because if people are listening to podcasts, right, they probably would want to listen to yours if you're interesting, right? So those are some things to think about. Should you start a podcast for your brand? And the next question would be, why do you want to start a podcast for your brand, right? And then what are your expectations, right? If you're thinking, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to get hundreds of thousands of downloads, right? That's probably not a realistic, out of the gate, projection on what you think you can do. Okay. It's just not. And honestly, if you get 1,000 downloads a month, just think about that. That's 1,000 people that are listening to you, that I would definitely say that those people are more interested in listening longer than a YouTube video. We all know if you're watching YouTube, you're like, look and you see how long it is, and you're like, oh man, that thing's like 12 minutes. I don't have 12 minutes to listen to that darn thing. Or you start listening to it, and then all of a sudden you see something else that catches your eye, or you get a notification. If you listen to the podcast, it's usually on a walk, at the gym, in the airplane, in the train, in the car, whatever. You're in the podcast, feed, and that's it. There's not really a lot of distractions other than, maybe your wife or your husband coming in and going, hey, dinner's ready, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'll be right there. I'm just going to finish this part of the episode or whatever. Right. So it definitely, and that's what I found. It definitely helps to build the relationship deeper. Okay. So just understand that is a huge, huge part of a podcast. And I would encourage you to do it if you are looking for the long-term effects of this. Okay. Also, it's a great way for you to get questions. So I'm doing this podcast off of a question, right? So this question came in, should I start a podcast? The title of this episode is, should I start a podcast for my brand? Right? So this came in from Mark. Now it gave me content ideas on what I could create. Now I'm creating it. This piece of content will live on. It's on the podcast. It's on the blog, right? And so it's going to be there. Now I could post on Facebook about it, let people know in the group that I did it, that I talked about this, right? So there's all of these things that come with it, but you got to ask yourself, why do I want to do it? And if you're doing it just for the organic traffic thing, I would probably say don't do it, and do the other thing first. Do the the blog post, maybe some Pinterest to amplify the content, right? Maybe a YouTube video that could then also add to the blog post. But the podcast thing, that's kind of like out there a little bit, because it doesn't give me a direct, organic search, is what I'm trying to say. All right. So again, think about that. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, ask yourself those questions. Okay. And if the answer is, yeah, I want to do it, or yeah, I think it would be fun, and, I would love to connect with, some people in my audience, then by all means do it. There's nothing you're going to lose from it, just a little bit of time. But if you think you would enjoy it, then do it. There's nothing stopping you. But I just want you to think about those things before you end up committing to one more thing. All right. So I hope that helped you. If you do want to create one, well, let me know. I'd love to listen to it. And I'll let you know how it is. You can always post that in the Rock Your Brand private Facebook group. If you're listening to this on the podcast and you want to be part of our Friday jam sessions, all you need to do is head over to brandcreators.com/RYB, and that will take you over to the group. You will have to request to join, and then from there, answer a few questions, and we'll get you approved. All right. So just head on over there and join. I'd love to see you there on our Friday jam sessions. All right, guys, that is a wrap. I don't know if I'm even still actively live. All right. Yes, we are. Okay. So I still see blurry. I still see all of that stuff. Okay. Atlanta's in the house. What's up? Okay. So, Derek wants to know, when do we get details for Saturday all-day event? I have not received details yet. You'll be getting them this afternoon, Derek. This afternoon they're coming, so stay tuned for that. Nigel, hi Scott. I'm able to start again on my home base, which currently has about 8 posts. My niche is in the family camping genre. As I live in the UK, would it be better to build it in the UK first or the US as it's a larger market? I want to start posting on YouTube later, which may lend easier for me as I'm in the UK, or would it be better to look for someone in the US to provide content? You know, whatever's easiest, Nigel. Honestly, I would not overthink this. Whichever's easiest for you and wherever you think your market is, that's where I would start. Right? That's where I would start. I can't give you an exact answer on oh, I would start in the UK because of, this, or I would start in the US because of this. I think regardless of where you are, it doesn't matter because you're going to be able to post in the UK, or you're going to be able to post in the US. So I don't know 100%. Are you talking YouTube as far as what platform, or, what channel? So I'm just curious on that, on what you're asking. I would just start wherever it's easiest, to be honest with you. Derek, your video is blurry today for some reason or another, and I have super fast speed. Yeah, well, I think it's because we're pulling bandwidth. I think my daughter's pulling some with schooling right now. What tools are you using to set up the podcast? I did a full video on that on YouTube. If you just go to my YouTube channel, you'll see a full video there of the whole setup. So I basically have a mixer. I have the mic, which is the Rode Procaster, and then the RODECaster Pro, and that's it. And I just record directly into, well, in this case, I'm going through StreamYard, which then I'll take that recording and pull it down. But if I'm doing a solo or an interview, it will be through, usually it'll be through either Zoom, or it'll be right directly into GarageBand inside of my computer. Let's see. Can I just create a podcast to just put on my daily brief? Let's see. So I think, are you saying just do a breakdown of what your daily activities are? I'm not a huge fan of vlogging or any of the stuff where I'm just going to kind of tell you what I'm doing today. It needs to be specific on if you're talking on a topic, let's go really deep on that topic. Right? That's why the podcast for me took off in the beginning, because I was really focusing in on one area of the e-commerce space, which was Amazon. Right? So that's why if you carve out that spot, then you start going really, really kind of niche down, but still allow yourself to go a little bit wider. But I would say you want to be specific. Is there a way to feed podcast to Alexa app, or do we just keep it simple and not worry about that? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Get it up on iTunes. That would be my first place. iTunes would be number 1. And then from there, I'd go Stitcher, Spotify, any of the other channels. Lights starting to crank. Okay, so let's see here. Scott, that's Nigel again. I work as a computer engineer. If you want later, I can link in with you at a time that suits to see if we can figure out what's going on with your PC. Yeah, I know what it is. It's the bandwidth. I just looked, my upload's down. It's only 6 or 7 up, and normally it's 20. So there's an issue there. So I got to either reset the modem, or it's because, like I said, my daughter's streaming right now with school. How much editing time does the podcast take you per week or per episode? For me personally, it doesn't take me any time, because I just upload the raw file and then I hand it off to my editor. And then from there, the transcripts get automatically created as well, and my show notes get created. So I have someone that takes it and basically edits the podcast, uploads it to another Dropbox folder, which then the editor that creates the post puts it into the blog post, which also schedules it to be released on the feed, which will then push it to all of the different platforms. Don't forget to take a sip. Oh, thank you. Surprised you could see me. It's blurry. Yes, you are. Okay. Kids are on Zoom calls for school. Yes, it's exactly right. All right. So guys, if you don't have any other quick questions, I am going to jump today. And the reason is because, well, tomorrow we've got a big event coming up here. And if you still have not grabbed a ticket and you want to grab a ticket, head on over to baltickets.com. That's our one-day event happening tomorrow, September 12th. And we will be kicking off at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Officially, the first session's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. The full schedule can be found at baltickets.com. But tonight at midnight, we are closing registration for the event so we can make sure that everyone has gotten what they need and they're ready for the morning. And then tomorrow all day we'll be busy, obviously, with the event. And then after we get done, we will be offering the recordings. But right now they are at the lowest price that they will be offered at using the VIP option. So again, if you're interested, baltickets.com. It's our one-day workshop. Only happens once per year, and this is the first time we've ever done it virtually. Yeah, we're getting excited. It is going to be happening here very, very soon. Okay, here's another quick question. Scott, can you pre-record podcasts and schedule them to play at a later date? Yes, that's exactly. Like right now, I'm recording this live, but I'm not putting it on iTunes right now, right? All I'm doing is recording the audio file. And then once that's done, then we can upload it and then we can schedule it when we want it to air. And that's it. If a lot of bandwidth is used, it will cause video to look blurry and break up. Yeah, that's basically what's happening right now. So I apologize for the feed today, but unfortunately, we're on at the same time, I guess. So my daughter's pulling down some bandwidth up there in her little schoolroom. So yeah, I apologize for that, but luckily the audio is still good. So hopefully we can still use the audio from this. But again, guys, tomorrow, hopefully you guys can join me. I know a lot of you already did grab a ticket. I know Derek, you're going to be there. I think Anthony, you're going to be there. Let's see here. Who else did I see? I think Phil, Michael, I think, yeah, I've seen a few familiar faces here that I know that will be there tomorrow, but, yeah, really looking forward to it. And tomorrow we will make sure that we have nothing being pulled from this house, because I need a steady bandwidth stream. So, we're going to be doing some tests here this afternoon to make sure that that is the case. So anyway, guys, have an awesome, amazing day. I'll be back here Monday doing probably a little bit of a recap on what happened during Brand Accelerator Live 2020, the virtual event. I'm sure that I'm going to have a lot to talk about, and hopefully it'll all be good because, well, again, I've never done a full live stream all day long. So we'll have to see how it goes. Gio, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, brother. Derek, we'll see you as well. And, yeah, this is going to be awesome. So I can't wait until tomorrow, and hopefully you guys will be there as well. If you have any questions for me, you can always drop it in the comments. You can always email me to scott@brandcreators.com. I can answer all of those. But like I said, today I'm going to be super busy because, well, we're getting ready for tomorrow. Okay. So guys, have any questions? Let me know. Until I see you next, take care, take action, and I'll talk to you soon, guys. Bye.